This is Social Leopards. I'm Bea.
And I'm Beth. A leopard is a solitary creature living in the jungle, but often not seen or noticed. Are you a solitary creature trying to navigate the social jungle?
This show explores loneliness and the many ways forward. Welcome to Social Leopards.
Welcome back. I am Beth.
And I'm Bea.
And this is
Social Leopards.
Here we are. And today we have another guest, and her name is Hannah Parker. She is a life coach and a Reiki master, and also a trauma-informed coach and consultant. Her social media has a fabulous byline, by the way, and I want to share it. It is Healing Our Collective Inner Child with Mind, Body, and Spirit.
That's awesome.
So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I love what you guys do, and I just love what you preach as well. And so I'm really excited to dive into how all of those things combine, how we can all work with what we have.
I love that. Yes. So to start us off, why don't you tell us a little about yourself and your personal story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like I have a lot of irons in the fire. And so it's going to be a wild ride of a story. So how I came about Reiki and like where I am today is I am a child of a dysfunctional family. I'm a child of a long line of addicts and just dysfunction in general. And I got to a point where I was probably, I'm going to say 26 or 27. And I was just not coping well with my life. And so I went on a personal journey for myself, and I was just exploring all of these different healing modalities. I'm a big proponent of therapy, a big proponent working whatever 12-step program works for you, because there's literally so many out there. And then I was just like in my kind of self-care, if you will, era. And I stumbled upon a local spa where I live, which is in the KC Metro. And the spa, which I actually now work at, the person who did a facial for me had Reiki as like an add-on at the end of a session. And I was like, that's like yoga, right? It's not at all. But I was like, that sounds peaceful. And I decided to add it on to the end of a facial. And my now boss told me things about my root chakra, which are connected to like your early childhood, bringing your grounding, that she would have never known. There was no way for her to have known. And I just felt such immense release in a different way that I had not felt through therapy. And I still go to therapy on a monthly basis. That's never going to change. But it was just different. It felt different and it felt good. Like I had such a good cry, and I cry at literally everything, but it was a different type of cry. And it just felt so good. And so that person, like I said, my now boss at the spa, Ellen, she was also a Reiki master and was offering classes. And so to practice Reiki just on yourself, you take Reiki 1. And then if you want to practice on others, you would then take Reiki 2. And so I took both of those back to back. I was just like, I'm obsessed. This is so cool. I was obviously also adding the caveat, very skeptical, because I am a Virgo, and that did not make sense.
Same.
My logical mind was like, red flag. What are you talking about? How? Like what? No. But the first moment, like I had the chance to practice on someone else, I was like, oh, this is for me. This is cool. And then a couple months later, my boss then at the spa, or wasn't my boss yet, but she put out feelers because they were growing. And she said, I'm looking for someone who's an energy healer. I would love for them to be a Reiki master. And I just messaged her. Couldn't tell you why. Honestly, all of these things in my life, I could not tell you why I did them. I just felt the urge. Now I know. It's like intuition telling me I need to do something. But at the time, I was just like, message her. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'd love to try. And here we are, nearly 2 years later. And I practiced at this spa, like I said, in the KC Metro. And it is amazing. I've met just so many amazing women and men as well. But majority of my clientele is women, which is not shocking if you just know who I am as a person. But I've just met so many people. And along that journey, I obviously became more attuned with myself and who I want to be, because I do Reiki. I practice Reiki part-time. And so I was like, how do I make all of myself become one, hopefully one day? What does that look like so my passions can meet how I make an affordable living wage? And so at that point, I decided to become a trauma-informed coach. And so what that is that's the certification through the International Coaching Foundation. And that was, I think, like a 3 or 4 month course where I did a ton of work with a bunch of other coaches in a variety of different spaces. But essentially, through that work, I work with a lot of businesses on how to ensure that they are using proper language and technique so that when people are coming into their spaces, specifically spaces where we're touching people, so that's yoga studios, spas, pelvic floor therapists, things of that sort, that we're not re traumatizing people. I think a lot of people have the best intention in mind, but sometimes we don't have all of the tools given to us. And so that's how that came about. I was just exploring. I was like, do I go to school like to be a therapist? Because that's always been something I felt drawn to. But I was like, let's take a trial run. Let's take the shortest period available of something that I would be passionate about. And then from there, decide if I wanted to be a therapist or where that would go from there. And that kind of segues into where I am now. So I do both of those things. And I'm also in my master's program for psychology and organizational development, which I think is,
Woohoo!
yeah, yes. So I'm hoping
Awesome.
to marry all of those things into something that really makes me feel proud about what I do. That was a very long story, so
No, I
sorry.
love it. I love that you got there, and I'm glad you're doing it because psychology is a place that we need more people. But so what is it? It's Reiki, right? So I'm just more interested, what exactly is that?
Yes. So Reiki is a traditional form of Japanese healing technique. So
Okay.
I practice Usui Reiki, which is the most traditional form that was created a very long time ago. There are also more modern forms that Westerners have brought over. So like Holy Fire or like Dragon Reiki, but I just choose to perform the most traditional. So when people think of energy healing, they're just like, woo, like, like in the ether type of thing. And that's what it is. I will say how my boss and I practice specifically where we work is a very intuitive type of Reiki. And so what that means is I'm normally a lot of the times processing a lot of people's I'm meeting people's spirit guides. So, like, a lot of the times I'm meeting your inner child, or maybe it's your great aunt or like your grandpa and things of that sort. And then, it's not always a passing along of a message. Sometimes it's just a lot of really cool imagery. And like the person you're practicing on, they know what that means. It is just my job to pass along what is coming through. Like, none of this is mine. And I say that because a lot of my clientele are like, I've been going through something like intense. Are you okay? And I don't want it to stick with you. And it's not mine. Like I am simply just like a vessel for the message essentially. And it's not like I'm in a trance state, like I can hop in and out, like whatever. But I think that's the easiest way to explain it. It's like a guide for you to work through your 7 main chakras of what is happening in your body that may be disconnected from keeping you at your most, I don't know, like level playing field.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah.
I had a Reiki session one time and I didn't understand it.
They're all very different, I will say that.
Yes. I'm not sure. It was while I was grieving the loss of my dad. And I did get a lot of crying out that day, though. So that I think that in
Yeah.
itself was very helpful. And
Yeah.
yeah. And she told me that my dad was at my left knee or something. I can, yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Neat.
Yeah.
That is cool.
It was very touching. Yeah.
It can be, yeah. And I've met with people, and there's obviously no wrong way to do it. Everyone has their niche and how they practice. I think for me, though, because I am able to receive messages, so call that clairvoyant, clairaudient, whatever you'd like to call it, I think that is really helpful for a lot of people because a lot of us, due to just the society we live in, have blocked off those connections to whatever you want to call it, be it the spirit, Mother Earth, God, whatever you'd like to call it. And so I think it's really helpful just because you can receive that, even if you're grieving or you're just looking for that chakra tune up, like however you're feeling.
So earlier you said that you came from a dysfunctional family life. And one of the things that you shared with us as we were in that getting to know you stage is that you made a choice in your life with your family. I don't know which member of the family offhand, but can you tell us a little bit about that journey and how that has helped you?
Yes, absolutely. So that is one of the things I'm probably most passionate about speaking about because I just feel it is such a nuanced topic. And I don't, for me, when I started going through my healing journey, I started working through the 12 steps myself. So the 12-step program I went through is adult children of dysfunctional families and addicts, ACA or ACA. And hands down one of the things like saved my life. And it wasn't like I was in a super depressed state, that type of saving my life, but I was going to continue likely on like just destructive patterns that were helpful for me as an adult and learning how to be an adult. And so that decision came about 5 years ago with that parent who I am no longer in contact with. And if you had asked 21, 22-year-old Hannah if that was ever an option, no. Like, why would I ever do that? That person is my best friend, all of the things what a parentified child may say. And so that decision, I can't tell you what exactly it was at that time that sent me out. Actually, I can. I forgot what it was, but I was like, okay, no, I can. It got to a point where there was like financial abuse had occurred. And I was at a point in my life where I was like trying to be an adult, like trying to have a car and like all of these things. And then I uncovered that my social had been used for other things. And I was like, whoa, we're not, no. And I think I may have taken like the easy way out. I didn't tell my no contact parent that I was going no contact. I just did it because I knew at the time I did not have the capacity to have that conversation. And I also knew even if I was going to have that conversation, it wasn't going to be received as anyone who's ever gone no contact can imagine. And that journey has been really hard. I like to describe no contact as grieving a parent even though they're still on earth. And it's been a really interesting journey that I've worked with my therapist. God bless Mary. Like, and it is one that how I can describe being no contact with a parent is the initial kind of grief that you have from that feels like this ginormous wave. It's just coming in, and the wave from the ocean is just taking over your whole entire body. And then, it slowly recedes. And each time something happens, whether that be them trying to reach out, even if they're blocked, or them trying to pass along a message through a family member, or all of these different boundaries that are just slowly being chipped away at you. Now, each time it's like a wave, but each time the wave comes back in, the wave is smaller and smaller until when the wave comes in now, it's like up to my ankles or my knees sometimes. And so it doesn't feel so all consuming. For example, like I even had to see my no contact parent very recently, like last weekend for my siblings' graduation. And it was okay. Like honestly, it was okay. But of course, in my brain, thinking of like the worst case scenario, thinking of having my boundary statement prepped and ready to go. I'm really happy for you, but I'm not at a place in my life where I can rehash all of these things. And luckily, I didn't have to use that. And it's taken me 5 years to be in a place to have a lot of compassion for my parent. Like I have an abundance of compassion for them now. But again, that's taken so much work, programs, therapy, Reiki, retreats, like you name it. Like I've been getting through it. Like I needed to get to this place for myself because it just is not healthy for me to sit in a place where I had just like a lot of anger and frustration for that person. And at the end of the day, like they were just trying the best they could with the tools that they were given. And they were further part of a dysfunctional family system themselves. So like how did they ever have a chance when they grew up in like the 80s and 90s where like therapy and us having conversations like this didn't exist? And so my whole point of wanting to have a platform and talk about this is because when I started my healing journey, as much as I love ACA, I found myself stumbling into a space where no one was my age. Like everyone was like in their 60s or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love having conversations with people older than me, younger than me. But it's so nice to sit in a place where you're like, oh, I'm going through all of these other things like societally because I'm 20, 30, whatever it may be. But I'm also going through this really crappy point of grief that no one either talks about now or until like they're way older because they've had time to process or whatever that may be. And so I just hope that I can be a person that people can see that like it is possible and it does suck. And I'm going to tell you how much it sucks. But there's also like a light at the end of the tunnel when you get to a place where, as cheesy as it is, time does heal a lot of wounds.
So I admire you for trying to break the pattern. That's what you're doing. You're trying to end the cycle, and I can relate to that. I have parents who are from another generation. The expectation is for me to take care of them no matter what they do, what they say. And I decided it's going to end with me. I'm not going to have my daughter go through what I'm going through. It's not, it's dysfunction. It's not addiction, but it's like similar to what you're talking about, but they're like almost 90 now. So it's the end, but I think about that film all the time in my head, The Last of the Mohicans, like the end.
That film.
Yes, that was the end. And this is going to be the end. But you're doing the right thing now. So you don't have to repeat the pattern. So wonderful.
Absolutely. Kudos to you as well. It's hard work. Anytime you're doing any type of inner work, it is just, you're digging out the dirt from all the layers of people before you.
So what do you think prepared you emotionally to begin that journey in the first place? Because you mentioned 21 or 22-year-old, you wouldn't have been able to fathom it, but all of a sudden something happened. So what, was there a specific reason, or was it just, did it come upon you?
I think that's a great question. I think there's a couple of reasons. I think growing up, I think I finally reached my prefrontal cortex being developed. 26, 27, 28, I finally had like rational thinking turned on. I also at the time had a partner, a very safe partner for the first time in my life. And we're not together. I'm married to someone completely different now. And I love that. But that partner was like the first safe person who ever like allowed me to be me and allowed me the capacity to flourish in a way I don't think I've had the opportunity for in a adult relationship. And again, I also started going to therapy around that same time, probably like a year prior. So again, my therapist, shout out to her for everything that she's done for me. And then I also think just getting to a point where I just was exhausted, just not being able, like knowing I could not do this the rest of my life type of thing. I think those are probably all a culmination of factors that helped me get there. And I think once you start to do self work, so at the time I was just going to therapy, I hadn't really dove into anything else. But I think once you start that journey of self work, whatever that may be, you start to realize your worth and what you're able to accept and how much we're not willing to accept. And I think that's really what springboarded that journey of like me deciding this isn't going to work for me for now. And it hasn't worked for some time, but I didn't know no contact was like a choice. Very similar to what you just said, that it's your like responsibility to be with your family, however dysfunctional that they are. And I think the other thing that helped was that my parents also got divorced, like at that age. So it made it easier for me to cut off that parent who my parents weren't this unit anymore. Where if they were married, that would be a very hard thing, maybe impossible like thing to do, because I still see my other parent. I've loved both of my parents, but I only have room for one of them in my life currently. And that's the healthy parent at this time.
Did you see any changes in the way that you are able to healthfully relate to others emotionally after you had gone through this no contact situation? Were there other changes that, or other benefits that you were the recipient of once you processed all of that?
I think so. I think one of the biggest benefits is that, so my parent who I have no contact with is my mom. And of course, the relationship between mother and daughter is one that will stand the test of time. My therapist talks about like how important it is, but also like how detrimental it can be, all these things. And so I think the thing that it opened up for me was allowing other women to be motherly towards me. And that sounds probably very cheesy, but like I could cry thinking about it, because there are just so many women in my life who are so amazing. Like I think it really allowed me to see that you don't have to be someone's mother to be motherly to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just read Chelsea Handler's book, I'll Have What She's Having, which she doesn't need my like kudos, but here it is. It is so good. It is so wise. And it talks about the same concept that you don't have to be a mother to have motherly instincts. And
Mm-hmm.
that was really reaffirming for me on a couple of levels because I'm child free. I plan to be child free, but I do have that motherly instinct to help teach and give to people. And so I think it also opened up. So, like I said, for me to receive love from other women, but then also for me to give love to other women. And that could be women younger than me, women older than me. It really runs the gambit. But I think it really opened up my eyes to see how many other amazing female figures I have in my life because I think it also allowed me to see how, and again, this is coming from a place of 5 years no contact. So if anyone listening is current no contact, you're like, yeah, whatever. But it also allowed me to see these two different versions of my mom. There's like the addict version of my mom, and then there's also like the amazing, wholesome, like wonderful version of my mom who lives in me, isn't allowing me to do this because she's taught me all of these things. I don't think if I still had contact currently, that I would be able to like receive all of those things. I think because I would likely be very emotionally stunted still, stuck in just a cycle. Even though I'm an adult now, it still would be a cycle of like parentification that I just don't need, frankly.
You did a great job, and I do definitely feel your pain I feel it. My mom got dementia over 10 years ago. And so to your point, I have a lot of other people in my life that give me that love, and it's like her again and other people. So I think you feel the same.
Absolutely.
I have several people in my life who have limited or no contact with parents. And so this is a very interesting topic for me because sometimes I don't know how to support those people in the best way possible. Do you have anything to share about that?
Yeah. I think when I was in the early stages, I would have told you, don't ask me. Don't ask me about my mom. Don't ask me if I think when it first started out, a lot of people with really good intentions were like, have you? Or it's been 6 months. Have you? Or what does that look like? And they weren't doing anything wrong because that was the status quo. Like up until those 6 months prior, like that was the usual. So I think don't ask unless they like divulge when people are initially or going like low contact. But I think as time grows on, and again, just because I'm someone who's so transparent, like I would talk to anyone about any of this just because I think it's beneficial. But I think as time progresses, I think just allow your friends like time and space. And if they want to talk about it, fantastic. And if they never want to talk about it again, like that's also okay. And I think the other thing that's helpful is I have a friend who I went through ACA with, who was like my friend before we both went through this program. And so she's the one person I can always count on to shout out Kat. She's the one person who I can always count on to check in on me on earlier in my journey when like Mother's Day was really hard, or if Father's Day was really hard for her, whatever it may be, whoever your parent is. I think to just have a person to check in on you sometimes. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, it's Mother's Day. How are you doing? It can be like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that you are so loved. Like you offer such like motherly wisdom to blah, blah, blah. And just, I don't know, a kind text, a kind message, flowers, whatever it may be, just on those times when you're first no contact, that it's really hard because with our current day and age, we see a picture perfect version that everyone posts online. And when you first are going through whatever that may be, you could lose a parent, a child, whatever it is. When you first start to see all of these images of like happy people, you're like, wow, I hate it here. And so I think just being a good friend and being a good listening ear.
Yeah. I have learned over the years that instead of how can I help or trying to help, I have switched to what can I do to support you, put it in their hands. What do you, if you need anything from me, please let me know. Otherwise, just know that I am here. And that has been probably the biggest learning lesson for me as an adult.
Yeah. I don't think that's just you. I think all of us, especially as women, historically, we want to fix things. We're like, okay, I see you're in distress. How do I fix you? Like, how do I make you feel whole again? And that's impossible. And so some of my friends, to your point, when I know like they're going through something, if it's like intense, you could, like you said, ask the question like, hey, do you just want me to listen or do you want me to offer you solutions? And I've had that same friend and other friends ask me that before. And most of the time, I just want you to listen. Most of the time, when I'm out of this feeling brain and I'm back to like my thinking brain is turned back on, I can figure it out myself. Like I got this far.
Yeah. Yeah, I think until the day I die, my very first instinct will always be I want to make this person feel better. I want to find the way, help them find the way forward. And I'm not Superwoman. I can't fix it. But
Nope.
still, the instinct is still there as you see somebody in pain and you want to solve it or you want to find some way to distract them to make them less sad or whatever it is. And sometimes you just got to sit in your sadness, right?
Yeah, they sure do. Unfortunately, you sometimes just have to.
Yeah. So, were there any unexpected challenges along the way that threw you for a loop or set you back a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Like with any type of healing journey, there's going to be things that shock you. And you're like, why did that feel that way? What are you talking about? Something that's happened in like the past year was that my no contact parent tried giving me a gift for Christmas, which I know that she had good intention and good heart and like it was very thoughtful of her. But for me, even though at the time I was probably 4.5 years no contact, I spiraled about it, like hardcore. Maybe there's a note in there. Maybe it's an apology. Like maybe there's like all of these things. And I like could not sleep the whole night knowing like this Christmas gift was like in the house. So, like I woke up and I did it and I opened it up and I was so mad. Like I was so mad. And I didn't that is something that I didn't expect. Like I have very much so gotten past my adult brain, my rational brain has very much so gotten past the need for a long-winded apology. I'm not there right now. I don't need that currently. But I think my little kid brain maybe wanted that a little bit. And so when I
Mm.
opened it up and it wasn't anything besides, I know, a gift, which is nice. I was just very hurt because also then the other parts of me kicked on and was like, oh, this is crossing a boundary. Like I've asked for no contact for so long. And here we are. All of those like immediate things. And so that was something that shockingly, like to me at least, very much so set me back. And I've talked to clients and other people who are also no contact, and that also tends to throw them a loop. And I think it is because for a lot of people, it can be seen as like a form of manipulation, even that if that's not the intent behind whoever is trying to give you this gift, they may just be being genuinely kind with no strings attached. But for you, as the child who has spent their life trying to like disentangle, and it was your job to figure out the ulterior motive of everything that doesn't just immediately shut off. And yeah, I would say that was probably like the biggest setback that I can think. It wasn't a setback. I would say it was more so just like a shocking event that I was did not expect to happen at all. And I even got so upset in the moment I like wrote a very strongly worded like letter that I was gonna send and I didn't do it. It wouldn't have done any good. But
It felt good to
I
write
felt
it though, right?
it does. I love writing stuff and never sending it. But it
Yeah,
felt good
that's
to
great.
just get it out. So
Yeah. So how did your no contact decision impact the relationships with other family members?
yeah, that's a good question. Like I said, it was easier because my parents were recently divorced at that time or were going through a divorce. It is hard to navigate sometimes because I have two siblings who are contact, and then I have one who aligns with myself, and he is also no contact. And first, I was like a little salty because I didn't really understand myself. I didn't understand them. But as I've grown, I want everyone to have the relationship that they want. And if that relationship is doing you good and it serves what you need from it, be my guest if that is what you need. But for me, it just wasn't. And because of that, like I said, I've had to see my no contact parent, I think twice in the last 5 years, like at large family functions. And it, of course, makes me nervous, makes me anxious. But I think the thing I really realized this most recent time was that because this person is now on a sobriety journey and has been for a good chunk of time now, that they have to be as equally nervous as I am. And I can't imagine like the amount of guilt and shame that has to play into walking into a room because, again, they're family functions. So walking into a room of people you loved and knew really well at one point in time. And I just have so much compassion for that person because that would eat me away. And I don't want that for that person. Like, I want my mom to be a healthy, happy person, either with or without me. And yeah, I think that was probably the biggest wrench in the plan was that I was going to have to see them sometimes because I do have, like I said, three siblings and two do see her. And I hope they do. And I hope that they are receiving on both ends just love and kindness because who would want a relationship without those things?
Yeah. I have someone in my life that went no contact with his mother,
Yeah.
and his sister did not make that same choice. And it was a little difficult around the edges. And
Yeah.
there was a time early on, and it's been many years, many more than 5. And there was a time when the mother had started a new relationship with a different person. And that man, with good intentions, walked up to him and said, "What can we do to get you and your mom back together?" And he looked at him and he said, "An apology would be a nice start." And the
Right.
guy, like freshly married to his mom, went, "Oh." And then he says, "I don't think that's going to happen." He turned around and he turned tail. And I was like, wow. And yeah. And we had a conversation about it afterwards. But like I said, many years have passed. And there are very rare occurrences where there is contact and it's still a little bit uncomfortable, but no longer. But what amazes me is that the mom never even tried. Pride was the foremost motivator to not admit. It was more important to be non-accountable than it was to restore the relationship. And that was, I think, the saddest part for me.
Yeah, that is really sad. And I think if you're ever on like Reddit, like no contact Reddit, there is so much of that where just there's so many parents who don't understand. I do think I have a parent who do understands because I know she talks to like other family members and expresses her like desire to maybe one day have a relationship. And so I know there is some amount of understanding there, not one that I have the capacity to work with at this time. But I do think that is so very common. And it's just so sad because how could you not want to repair that relationship like with your child? Like, how would you not crawl to the ends of the earth to do whatever? And again, I'm not a mom. I don't even know that bond, but like I have people in my life who I absolutely would do that for because that's all we have at the end of the day, is like connection.
Yeah, and that's where my head went when I first learned of it. And I'm like, what is going on inside you that you can't humble yourself? And so it is very difficult, but everybody's journey is very individualized and we can't know what is truly going on in the background or what their history is or where their trauma lies. So I try to be understanding, and I have a closer relationship with this individual just because I am that unofficial, not mom figure, but mom-ish vibe, right?
Yeah.
So it works out that we get to be really good friends per
I
se
love that.
as a result of that. So I
Mhm.
guess I'm the winner, right?
Yeah, you lucked out.
So did you have any guilt or doubt about your decision, no contact decision, and how did you deal with it if you did?
Yeah, it hurt really bad. Like it sucks. Like I would not lie to anyone. It is one of the worst feelings I've probably ever felt in my life. I doesn't like I said with like kind of the wave analogy, it hurts a lot less now. I think initially I was so mad that I threw that guilt just like out the window. Okay, you feel bad about my decision. I feel so bad about XYZ, like you've done. And I think the thing that really helped me was learning to be selfish for the first time in my life. And I was learning to put my needs above anybody else's. And for someone who grew up a parentified child, that is the ultimate task to learn how to do is to kind of just sit in your feelings and like figure out why you feel that way. And so I suppose initially when grief would wash over me or guilt, I had a lot of therapy. Like I probably was going to therapy on maybe a weekly basis at that time. And I think what really helped me, and it's probably the reason I'm here today, is having a therapist who like made me realize like it's not my fault at all. And also, as I've mentioned as well, ACA, you do this really cool activity when you first start ACA. It's like one of the first like pages of the book, and it's called the Family Tree Traits Activity. And it is something that I've done with like people in like healing book clubs and things like that because I think it's so impactful. And I think most of us don't think back further than our parents in regards to traits that have been passed down. And so in this family tree activity, you lay out your family trees, like your mom's side, your dad's side, grandparents, great grandparents, and you go up, I think, 2 layers, put all their names out, and then you have this list. And you have to give everyone either one trait or multiple traits. And when you first look at that trait, things like they were always the family cook. When you first look at it, you're like, huh, what could be wrong with that? Everybody loves to eat, everybody's cooking. But no, they were a chronic people pleaser. And so to see all of these things come
Yeah.
down and doing activities like those, I think really helped me take the guilt off myself and then also take the blame off my parent because it didn't start with me. It didn't start with her. I didn't start with, yada. It's a family tree. That's why they call it like the family tree of dysfunction because even if people, specifically for my family, it was addiction, but those dysfunctional traits, even if you're like dry, they still trickle down. And then maybe the next generation has an alcoholic or an addict, but it's still at the core of it. They're all the same traits of people doing things that are selling themselves short, I think, is how I would describe it. And so I think activities like that and therapy really helped me to feel less bad or like less guilty about my decision at the time.
Oh, I like that. I think I might have to do that myself.
Yes,
It's a
it's a
new
good
one. That's
one.
a great one. Yeah, thank
It's a
you.
good one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This time has flown by, and so we're starting to run short, but I want to ask you a little bit more about the byline that I read off at the beginning. Can you explain a little bit more about healing our collective inner child with the 3 pieces?
Absolutely. Yeah. So healing our collective inner child with mind, body, and spirit. I think I just love that because I think a lot of when I started doing a lot of work was about healing little me and what little me needed to be safe, to learn how to like be okay, like learning to eat regularly, like a human again, like without having like all of these pressures. And so I think for me, it's just like doing things that little me would love and not feeling cringy about it. So like when I first started going through this, it's taking up like coloring again. Coloring is incredibly peaceful. I don't know if any of you have done that recently, but it's so peaceful. I also think for a bit I was people can come for me. I don't care. That being a Disney adult was like cringy. And I love Disney World. And that is a very fond memory that I have of my entire family growing up. And so leaning into that instead of being sad about no longer having that, I think was another thing. But for the more practical things, like in the day to day life, when you can't color, when you can't go to Disney World, I think it's just about maybe you call it your intuition, maybe you call it like that still small voice, maybe it's your inner child voice, but just doing things, even if they seem silly, that make you feel good. And I think that's so important because I think a lot of us as we age, we think we need to be adults because we are in these grown bodies and we have responsibilities, but that doesn't mean like we can't have fun and we can't play. We can't just go to like yoga just to feel good. It doesn't have to be a workout. Like we can do all of these things like we did when we were little, like playing outside. Even if that looks different as an adult, you're just taking a walk. Like how is that much different than playing outside as a little kid? Like it's really not. You're still getting out, so like sunshine, you're hearing the birds chirping. You maybe are not digging in dirt. If you want to dig in dirt, be my guest. But I think a lot of that is just letting yourself be like the fullest version of yourself. And it takes a lot of work to get there. It takes a lot of work to be able to respect that little version of you. And so a lot of the things, one thing that I did that really helped, and one thing that I'll preach to people probably till the end of time, is when you're at a place where you feel really disconnected from your inner child, or you don't even know where to start, is having a photo of that little version of yourself, like on your mirror. So that every time when you look at yourself in the mirror, you also have to look at this little version of you. And I think it just helps, like mind body connection, if you want to call it that, but it helps you recall that little version of you, because that little version of you is inside of you forever. It doesn't matter how great your childhood was, like there's still that little kid joy that you get over things you're still passionate about. And that may change as you age. You may no longer like coloring, but maybe like pottery now. But I think it's always there. And leaning into that with every aspect of your life, I think is really what that's all about.
Yeah. Self-care is the word that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Earlier,
Yeah.
you used the word selfish, and I almost jumped in to correct you and say, no, that's learning self-care. That is not a selfish thing to prioritize yourself on occasion. And I know I was brought up that way, and it was almost a moment of shame to put you first.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's really a hard thing to
It
get
is.
over if it's
It
been
is.
instilled at an early age.
It is.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I would also argue that selfish is not a bad word. I think we're taught, I think that's my feeling. That's my theory. I think that we're taught to think that selfish is like not giving things back to other people. But for me, it's just focusing back on myself. So like selfish is like just about me. Because when I do that, when I spend that time selfish or doing self-care, whatever you want to call it, it gives me the capacity to give back to others that I
Right.
normally would not have the capacity to do.
Now I want to coin self-ish.
There we go.
Ah.
That's what I think you're trying to create. So you
Yes.
should go brand
Yes.
that.
Look for stickers, everybody.
Love it.
Okay. How can our listeners or watchers connect with you and learn more about the work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way to find me is on Instagram. And then once you find me on Instagram at evolve.with.hannah, you'll then see I have a webpage you can link to. That webpage can teach you everything about Reiki. If you're interested in being a coaching client, if you're interested in me consulting for your business, whatever that may be, that's the best way to find me. Yeah.
Awesome.
And those will be in the show notes, everybody, as well. Okay.
Thank you again. It was so enlightening, and you're just such a beautiful person. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity. I love getting to just commune and learn about other women in their spaces. So this has also been amazing for me.
Awesome. Okay, everybody. Until next week, take care.
Bye-bye.
Hey, social leopards. Don't slink back into the jungle quite yet. We have 2 important messages to share. First, remember to like this episode, drop us a comment, and if you haven't done it yet, follow this show or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can reach us on social media. You can also email share@socialleopards.com to contact us privately. All links are in the show notes. We love and appreciate hearing from those who listen to the show.
Second, we want you to know that this show is not intended to be a replacement for professional therapy. If you are struggling or if you need to interact with another person, check out the show notes for resources. Thanks for listening.